The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily represent those of this station or its management.
This is the Stockwell Roche Show, giving you real-time information you need to make educated decisions about buying and selling in the world-renowned Twin Cities. Now your hosts and real estate experts, Jason Stockwell and Josh Roche.
Land trusts and land banks, what are they? How do they work? All these questions answered today on the Stockwell Roche Show. I'm Jason Stockwell with RE/MAX Results.
I'm Josh Roche, RE/MAX Advantage Plus.
We're talking with a special guest. I want to start off right away by introducing him, Jeff Washburne. He's the director of the City of Lakes Community Land Trust. Hi, Jeff. How you doing?
Doing well. Thanks, Jason.
Awesome. And with us in studio today is Casey Thrash, the infamous, or not so infamous, Casey Thrash.
Hi, guys.
So we got a great show for you today talking about land trusts and land banks. What are they and how do they work? I, before getting into real estate, didn't have any idea about what these were and what they are. So I'm glad. And I had an idea from, investment stuff, but I didn't know what they actually do and their purpose and role. So we're going to get into that. And it's going to be a great show for you. But first off, Josh,
yes.
What's happening out there for the folks with the market? What's going on?
The market's really shifting. We're coming out of the winter market. We've had a mild winter. Based off statistics of where we were at last year and where we're at today, we're seeing 25.4% change in new listings. That means the market is actually, we're getting some listings out on the market. We can probably, the winter has a lot to do with that. We're seeing 14.3% in pending sales. That means that we have buyers out there. They're buying properties and they're getting accepted offers. And then we're also seeing the swing in the change in inventory. We're up a little bit from last week, but we're still at a minus 5.1% change in inventory. So if you're a seller out there, I guess the biggest thing to look at those statistics is it's a seller's market. We've got buyers out there. They're putting offers in on your homes. We've had a mild winter. If you don't have a plan yet, up until last week, if you don't have a plan in place, give me and Jason a call. We'll help you we'll get a game plan together with the network that we have. We'll get your house listed and we'll get that thing sold. So
that's good. All that's good. I'm looking at that and people are listening. So they're hearing what the realtors and everybody's telling them out there is that get your houses on early. That's up 25% from this time last year. And then yet the pending sales are still up.
Yeah.
So the buyers are still buying 14%, and the overall inventory is still down 5%, right?
That's exactly right. But, one thing that I want to add into it, I know we usually have our mortgage professional on, and we swing this back over to them. There's a reason why we're seeing the pending sales the way they are is because we're seeing still the low interest rates, and we're seeing the change in the different products out there for the low down payments. So that's allowing buyers that normally wouldn't be out shopping for a home, they're out there shopping now because they have a less down payment and they have different products to choose from to put their offers in. So there's a lot of changes taking place. We're seeing a lot of buyer action. If you've got a house that you want to sell this year, now's the time to actually at least get a game plan put together. The rates aren't always going to be this low. And and we're going to see that change take place with buyers once the rates start going up.
Yep. And the other thing, too, to consider is some people say, well, the market's going up, up, up. Why should I buy? Things are high. You hear the buy low, sell high adage. But here's the thing. We still haven't even reached the peak level. When I say peak, the peak before the crash. The Twin Cities Metro has not gone that. Other parts of the country have gone there and surpassed their previous peak. Colorado, I know, has, and parts of California.
Texas,
they've actually passed they've passed their peak before the crash. We have not in the Twin Cities, so we're still not there. Now, no one knows the future, and there's some people, skeptics, saying what's going to happen maybe later this year, next year, to watch out. But the bottom line is, if you want to live in a house and own a house and have the enjoyment of the house, there's other factors besides just what your payment is. There's life enjoyment factors, and that's what we want to help you out with. So other topics we want to talk about, or news that we want to give you. The quote of the week: obstacles are those frightful things you see when you take your eyes off your goals. Obstacles are those frightful things you see when you take your eyes off your goals. So we want to make sure that everybody knows if you have obstacles when you're doing a home purchase. Every transaction has loads of them. I was talking with my team yesterday, and I said, speed bumps. Some transactions have 1, some have 100. That's why we're here to help you get through those speed bumps. And some of them are mountains, not speed bumps.
Right.
So that's in response to the market activity as well. This also ties into it that Fannie Mae did a survey 29% of respondents said their household income is significantly higher than it was a year ago. 48 expect their financial situation to improve over the next year. Both numbers were all-time highs for that, with the number of people that said they expect their income to go up. The share also says now that it's a good time to buy, and that grew to 67%. So that comes from Fannie Mae.
And you're seeing that stability in our marketplace with the job market too.
Minneapolis was just ranked number 1 or something. I mean,
and we're in the top 5.
We're very, very lucky to have a lot of stuff going on in here with our job market and with the companies that are here. You can always find the show, and you can see what Josh looks like.
Yeah,
what I look like, and what Casey looks like, and what Jeff Washburne looks like.
My picture's not on the website.
You know what? We do have to get Casey now.
We have the video on talktwincitiesrealestate.com, talktwincitiesrealestate.com, or Facebook. You can search Stockwell Roche Show on there and find us, and we'll be happy. You can ask questions or email us directly from there anytime you want. talktwincitiesrealestate.com. Upcoming events and shows. Just real quick, we are going to be at the Convention Center in April. I know it seems a ways away, but it's right around the corner. April 10th through the 12th, we'll be at the Convention Center for the Home and Landscape Expo. It'll be live from there on the 12th, so if you want to see us live and ask questions live, you can do that. And then future upcoming shows, Big City.
Jason, are you going to shave your beard by the time like
April, probably.
Okay, good.
Yeah, because we'll be in Vegas prior to that, so I'll probably shave.
Good.
Big city upcoming shows. We have future shows to watch for, and we'll be upcoming here. Big City Lights and Lifestyle.
Big Lights.
We'll have a developer on for that, a downtown developer on for that. Another show we're going to be doing is co-ops and timeshares, how to buy and sell them properly, and what to watch out for. And another show after that, which I'm excited about, is crowdfunding. Crowdfunding. What is it, and is it for you? That'll be a great show. So we're excited about that. So. On to our show this week, land banks, land trusts.
Yeah, I'm excited. I don't know much about this topic as well, so this will be educational.
So, Jeff, now you're going to be in the hot seat. We got two guys here that have a lot of questions for you. So, Jeff Washburne, he's the director of the City of Lakes Community Land Trust right in Minneapolis. Jeff, get a little history on the, it's a nonprofit, so on the nonprofit, when it started maybe, what it does and what you do, and we can get into a bunch of questions after that. So,
sure.
Welcome, too, by the way.
Hey, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. So, I'm fortunate to have been with the organization since its inception. 12 years ago, they hired me as the first staff person to implement a vision by a number of folks that came together in South Minneapolis, and it was in response to a number of affordable home ownership opportunities that were built back in the late 2000s, early 2000s, late 1990s, early 2000s, where near the Honeywell campus, there were a number of new home ownership opportunities that were built, and there were affordability grants that were put into these homes, and they all had short timelines on when those dollars. So if you sold within a few years, you could recoup those grants. And what those folks in the South Minneapolis realized was that those homes were no longer affordable, that some pretty valuable affordability resources went into making those homes affordable, and now those homes were lost to the market, and a lot of the public subsidies that went into them were also lost. And as values went up, they realized that there has to be a better way of doing what we're doing. And so they said, let's figure out what other communities are doing. And from a kind of a larger perspective, there are about 250 land trusts nationally. There are 10 here in the state of Minnesota. And they said, what can we do in South Minneapolis to ensure that if we're putting a bunch of affordability investments into these homes, how do they stay in these homes so we can help more than one household with them?
So it doesn't just one-time shot, one person moves in, and then all of a sudden 5 years later they move out, and now there's nothing to recoup that. And then you have to go and pull money to do another project, another project to help, right?
As you guys are aware, I mean, sometimes you need something to incent a market. And in certain parts at that time in South Minneapolis, people were trying to encourage folks to take a chance and move into a neighborhood that otherwise wouldn't have been necessarily desirable. And so how do we incent that? And a lot of times you provide a forgivable grant.
Yep.
Those times, those dollars have gone away. The dollars don't flow into communities the way that they used to. And so the organization said we should start a community land trust in South Minneapolis. What came out of those early studies before they hired me, in focus groups, all that stuff, was we shouldn't just do it in South Minneapolis. This organization should serve all of Minneapolis. And so we started and got going. And our mission is to create and preserve permanent, affordable home ownership opportunities across the city of Minneapolis, and make sure that we can keep them affordable for future generations of home buyers. And so kind of the premise behind that is assisting households that, but for this opportunity, aren't going to be able to buy a home.
Right.
Equally important to that is if and when they ever decide to sell, that affordability investment that we're making in to make that home ownership opportunity for the households we're serving stays affordable for another income qualified household. And then lastly, perhaps the most important thing that we do is if we help somebody buy a home, we got to do everything in our power to ensure that they're successful in home ownership.
Yep.
So just a couple weeks ago, we were able to assist the 200th homeowner buying a home in the city of Minneapolis using the land trust to be able to do so.
Nice. So so I've known Jeff since 2006-ish. I'm thinking dates are, I don't know exactly when. And he's an awesome guy. I went to one of your homeowner. This is when the market was hot. And people
2006.
wanted to buy. Yeah, maybe it was early 2006. And, you put on a home buyer seminar for anything, and people show up. And you had home buyer seminars that were tailored for your home buyers that want to buy that maybe couldn't buy because the prices were so high at that time. So I attended the seminar, and the room was full of people that wanted to buy and couldn't. So we'll get into later in the next segment is more details on it. But what I wanted to make sure people know is that the land trust, the City of Lakes Community Land Trust, how it works now, and my take on it, maybe Jeff will correct me, but is that when the market is hot, it works because it allows people that wouldn't be able to afford the skyrocketing prices to buy one. When the market is not hot and people have trouble getting loans and they have trouble getting anything going, it's still a viable option, correct? So it kind of works on both sides to help a homeowner that might not be able to do a conventional, normal home loan. And we can talk about some of the people that have been helped by it and how it works and later on. But where you're located, so you're now not in South Minneapolis, right, Jeff? Are you still are in South Minneapolis, I guess?
We serve anyone looking to buy a home in the city of Minneapolis. Our offices are located in the near north side, but we serve the entire city.
Okay. And if you have questions about this, and Jeff, or you know someone that might benefit from it or want to help the program, you can always go to his website. Their company website or the Land Trust website is www.clclt.org. www.clclt.org. Back in a little bit with Jeff Washburne with more questions and answers about land trusts and land banks. You listen to the Stockwell Roche Show.
Life ain't nothing but a funny, funny riddle. Thank God I'm a country boy.
Jason's dancing.
And we're back. This is the Stockwell Roche Show every Sunday at 10 a.m. here on AM 1280 The Patriot. Talking about land bank, land trust. Special guest, Jeff Washburne, the director of the City of Lakes Community Land Trust. And he's been there for 12 years since its inception. And in the last segment, just talked about how it started and the need for it at the time. With what was going on. So my take on that, just for you out there, if you're listening, or if you're one of our loyal listeners, of our many loyal listeners out there, we want what I got from that is that there was money put into certain housing to make it desirable for people to go in, and this was maybe around the Honeywell area that Jeff had alluded to. And what happened was, people moved in, bought it. They took advantage of a subsidy or some sort of incentive to buy there. And then they sold, and there was nothing to keep that property or keep something going so someone else could take advantage of the same program that might not be able to buy a home. So they're there to step in and fill that gap. They've helped over 200 homeowners that wouldn't be able to buy typically in the normal market, buy and be a homeowner, which is a lot of people want to do and aspire to do, but just have obstacles that maybe something won't let them. And I can let Jeff talk more about this since he works with and helps those people every day and hears from them every day. And there's 10 land trusts in the state of Minnesota, to recap on that. And there are a number of them around the U.S., 250 around the U.S. So Jeff, back to Jeff on a question here we talked about on break is what is a land trust, and what is a land bank separately, so we can get the difference on that, being that was our show title today.
Sure. So land trusts are commonly known as community land trusts, and so when you hear the term community land trust, it's typically related to affordable or reasonably priced housing, most often ownership housing. Land banks are an entity that typically try and go out and get ahead of a speculative market, acquire, hold, often until the market comes back, but then being able to put the land, typically land, but it could be land and structures, into a place where maybe a greater public good, as defined by public or nonprofit entities, could play out. And typically that's for affordable housing or maybe for a larger commercial real estate development, but more along the lines of a public purpose. And that's the land bank's more kind of future thinking ahead of a speculative market, and how do we get ahead of that. Here in the Twin Cities, the land bank first came to rise really being as a conduit for disposition of bank-owned assets. And so they really served as a clearinghouse where banks were trying to liquidate some of a number of those assets that they had in the communities, and this was a way for them to do so in mass and created a bridge between a lot of organizations like ours, but also public entities and others as a clearinghouse for those assets.
So a land bank holds them for something future, and I know the land bank that I'm familiar with here in the Twin Cities is the Twin Cities Community Land Bank. And what happened with them was when the market crashed and there was foreclosures everywhere, and no one was buying. And it's so hard. Our memory is so short-termed.
Wasn't that long ago?
We think about how everything's great, and it is great now. But when you go back to that time period, I remember how in the real estate how desperate it was for everybody. And the banks were desperate. They couldn't get investors to buy anything. They couldn't get anybody to buy anything. They reached out and said, hey, we need local communities. We need nonprofits. We need something set up so that we can get these. Help us out. The banks were screaming for help. The cities and the land trust actually formed nationally and throughout a number of cities throughout the U.S. to help alleviate the bank's concerns. We're talking Bank of America, Aqua, all the banks, all of the big banks that hold mortgages. We're saying, okay, here, do something with these. We're trying to get them off of our shelves. The land bank said, okay, we will take them off your shelves, and we will work with local people to rehabilitate them and put them into the hands of a new homeowner that will own or occupy the home. And we employ people here. I mean, this is a recession. They're employing local contractors and all these things. So that was very, very much needed at that particular time. Now, and the land bank is still in existence, but they are way, way less involved in that particular piece of the business. They've shifted and evolved, just like everything, into new lending for public things that are, like Jeff said, getting land or lending out money for certain public projects or projects for other nonprofits or other things that will help the community. The land trust that Jeff works with, what they do is they don't bank properties, right? Is that what right, Jeff? You help people. You still hold properties, though, right? I mean, are you still hold the land? Right.
So, yeah, explain that a little bit.
The mechanics behind a community land trust traditionally are that we're going to provide an affordability investment, and basically what we're doing is bridging the difference between somebody can get a mortgage for and what the cost of the property is.
Okay.
A lot of folks
let's do a numbers. Quick example.
Yeah, let's say
property's worth $200,000. The person, and you and someone's, people can only get it. Let's say they can only get a mortgage for $140,000. You're
Bridge that difference?
bridging that gap. And how do you bridge that gap as a land trust?
So we're going out and we're trying to raise all kinds of funds, primarily from public sources. So we're responding to RFPs from the federal, the state, the county, the city, and even neighborhood level in Minneapolis. And we're cobbling together all these different sources so that we can fill that gap of $60,000 and essentially invest it into the homeowner. In consideration for us reducing the amount that they need to get a mortgage for, at closing, our organization does typically take title to the land.
So like a second mortgage or a lien on title? Or
we sever the title.
Own the land.
We own the land.
Oh, gotcha.
In consideration for that investment. And one of the misnomers that happens out there is that folks actually think that all we're doing is taking out the cost of the land. And for us, in Minneapolis, especially where lot values maybe only are $5,000 or $10,000 in certain parts of town, we're doing a lot more than that.
Yeah.
And essentially we're coming in providing the difference between what they can get a mortgage for and what they can afford. In consideration for that, we are taking title to the land. And the reason we do that is so then we have a legal lock on the property that basically dictates that if and when that homeowner ever decides to sell, whenever they want to sell, we're going to be able to say to them, great, we're going to take that $60,000 investment and we're going to make sure it gets passed on to the next home buyer.
Right.
And if there's a change in value, let's say in your hypothetical situation, $200,000 property, let's say it goes up $40,000 10 years from now. That's worth $240,000. In our land trust, and this varies by land trust, in our land trust, the homeowner would receive 25% or $10,000 of that increase in value. The remaining $30,000 or 75%, we're going to add to that initial $60,000 that we invested in the first household. Now we have $90,000 that we're backing off that new price of $240,000. So the next buyer is only going to be buying it for $150,000 versus $240,000.
So I know some of you out there listening to this think it seems like you think, oh, this is like a welfare program or some sort of subsidy program and all that. Jeff, tell us about some of the people that you help. I mean, is it like what is the goal? What is going on with the people that you help? Like, what are they doing, and why do they want to own a home? Is it because they're getting a discounted house? I mean, what's going on inside the heads of these people that are buying?
I think a lot of it is this perhaps negative term affordability. Affordability is relative,
right?
For me, compared to what Jason's able to afford, are very different things. And so I think it's affordability as to how much you're earning and how much you can really afford for what you're making wage-wise. We work with households. All the households are bringing in income, but a lot of times it's only a one income earning household, and they're just not making enough to buy a home. And I think we probably all know people in our lives that want to buy a home. They want to do better for themselves and their families. They just don't have enough income to support that. And so what we're doing is bridging that difference. Our organization can go away if we pay people enough money to buy a home in this market, but the reality is we just don't have a connection there.
Yeah.
So we're helping households that but for some additional assistance wouldn't be able to buy a home, or don't have family members or others who can invest in them to help buy a home of their choice.
So, for example, like, what are they doing then they're working, so what are the homeowners doing for work? And some people would say, like, well, why wouldn't they just work and get another job? Or, to qualify, or what's the what's the situation that would say, okay, they're gonna buy a home and they need a home? Is that what you guys determine that they need a home or they want a home? Because you can't give it to you got 200 people you've helped over a period of time, which is amazing. But I'm sure you've had a lot more than 200 people want to buy through you.
There's certain
right?
guidelines, I guess.
So the households we serve, we cannot serve households that earn more than 80% of area median income. And so what that means for our metro area is that on average, today's market, a household of four couldn't earn more than $64,000 a year. So this isn't for everyone.
Okay.
And at the same time, that example that you gave, if you can go out and buy that $200,000 home, it probably doesn't make sense to work with us. So we are working with households that don't have other resources, other family, or maybe a lot of the buyers we were able to assist are first-generation home buyers. So they come from families that haven't had a ton of wealth in their families, and what we're doing is providing a bridge and support to help them get into home ownership, and then making sure that if they get into it, we're supporting them through that process. So if they've never worked with a contractor before, they can use us as a resource. We can connect them with support so that they're not going to lose their homes to foreclosure, and that we're supportive through that whole life, not just getting into the home, but seeing it all the way through.
Yep. So just so you out there hear that, 80% of the median income is so a family of four that's less than 64,000 household income for a family of four is who would be able to qualify for something like this to help them buy a home. And then once they're in the home and then they sell the home, and say you move out. Let's say something happens and they're like, oh yeah, I want to move, or now I got a different job, or who knows, and I want to buy. The equity share is done at in your program 25% with them, so they still get the benefits of home ownership, and they also learn the process. And you guys educate a ton, right? I mean, you have programs, classes, they have a bunch, a lot of things going on, right?
That's right.
And
so. The thing I think to note is that if and when they ever do sell, that affordability investment stays with the property and it rolls on.
Awesome.
Yep, so it stays with it, so they can continue helping other people. So, Land Trust, Land Banks, Jeff Washburne. We'll be back with more. You're listening to the Stockwell Roche Show. I'm learning a lot. I don't know about you, Josh.
I'm quiet today.
Thank you for listening. We'll be back. Welcome back to the Stockwell Roche Show. I'm Jason Stockwell with RE/MAX Results.
Josh Roche, RE/MAX Advantage Plus.
And we're with you every Sunday morning, 10 a.m. here on AM 1280 The Patriot. Talking today about Land Trust, Land Banks, Jeff Washburne. Very informative, a lot of information. And we want to talk a little bit more, let you know about some of the people that are actually being helped by the program. You know, many of you out there listening have bought a home, sold a home. You know what the closing's like. We can talk about how that is different here, and then also about what it's doing for the community and the people that buy, and then their actual situation, their financial situation. One other note coming up: real estate pros for a cause. That's also in April. So we're doing the remodeling and home and remodeling expo at the convention center, the 10th, 11th, and 12th. But this is a special event on April 16th, 6 to 9 p.m. at the Cambria Gallery downtown by Brides Against Breast Cancer, I believe. So it's going to be a bunch of us realtors in the area, other colleagues, that are going to be bartending, helping the serve the people, and then raise money for breast cancer with this group. Great group. They reached out to
Jason will have an apron on. It'll be good.
He is only allowed to serve beer, wine, and a specific cocktail, though, I believe. Like, he's not going to be... If you ask him for a random drink, he's not going to be serving it
the
to you.
Roche.
I'm not
it's
very
going to
good
be
at that
the Joshini is going to be the cocktail.
Yes.
He will be wearing the hat.
Yeah, so it'd be a good time. So I'm not a bartender. I did when I remember back in the college days. I went to the middle school bartending and ran those ads. I called. I got the information. I wanted to actually learn how to be a bartender, but I never did. I'm not a bartender. I don't know anything. But I will be serving and being a bartender on this.
So you called, but you didn't go to the classes.
I called and got all the information.
There was
Okay.
interest.
They used to mail out all kinds of packets of information for you back in the day.
I didn't call.
But anyway, so that's coming up April 16th. Mark your calendars. You'll find that on our website as well, talktwincitiesrealestate.com. Facebook, Stockwell Roche Show. Find us there. And then, again, upcoming shows, Big City Lights and Lifestyle, Co-ops and Timeshares, and crowdfunding. We're excited about those shows. So, Jeff, back to Jeff Washburne, the director of the City Lakes Community Land Trust. They're in Minneapolis on Glenwood Avenue, clclt.org. clclt.org is the site if you
Lots of
have questions
information
or
on that
learning
site.
about
I'm
them.
going through it right now. There's a lot of stuff on there. So make sure to go there. There's a lot of stuff.
Really, really good info. So Jeff, what are some of the things that Break we want to talk about as far as the foreclosure rate, for example, and some of the homeowners, what's going on, and tell us a little more about some of the people that are actually being helped by this and what it does for them.
What I will share is that with our organization and that long-term relationship we have with homeowners, it allows us to build hopefully a level of relationship like most folks would have with their family. And so with that, I think we've earned the right to go back and survey homeowners every other year. And what we're doing that for is to see, we're helping a lot of folks get into home ownership, but we shouldn't be doing it if they're not 2, 4, 6 years from now doing any better than they were before. And so we capture more information about people than they probably know about themselves when they buy a home, per all the regulations that we're subject to. So we know we have all this baseline information, and then we're going back and we're saying, how's your income now? Are you more involved in the community? Do you lead in a block club? Are you more invested in what else is happening in the city? And so we're capturing all this information, and what we're finding is that households are making more money and on average doing better than the folks across the whole in Minneapolis, in the state, as well as the nation. On average, their incomes have gone up by 25% over just a 3-year period of time, which is really phenomenal. And it has nothing to do with the land trust, but I think it does have something to do with a lot of households we help never ever thought they'd be able to buy a home. We go to a closing table, as you guys do, and you see people breaking down. They never thought that they would be able to buy a home. They do that. They knock that off a list. They start to think, well, I never thought I could get a better job, or I never thought I could go back to school. And they've opened up a bit of mind space, not having to worry about rent. they have a fixed mortgage that's affordable for them, they can start to think about investing in other places in their life. And that, for me, is the exciting thing that I think we're part of.
Yeah.
I don't get to go to the closings anymore. My colleagues at the office do. But what I do get to see and hear is the stories about how people are going back to school, that they're doing better, that their kids are doing better in school, all these kind of bigger picture things. In housing and home ownership is the vehicle by which we're able to do that.
Yeah, it seems like, we take it for granted if you own a home. I mean, and you live in a home. But if you have someone who never thought they could own a home, that one piece can change their life. And just where you live, as far as not necessarily where in the city you live, or what city or what suburb or whatever, but what you live in. So instead of being in an apartment and you're always saying, okay, I don't have a stake, these families will have a stake of ownership. And you said a lot of them are first time, are immigrants, right? They're not necessarily, or maybe not immigrants.
First-time home buyers.
But first-time home buyers for their family or something.
And first-generation home buyers.
First generation.
So their parents nor their grandparents ever owned
That's
a
what
home.
I meant to say.
Yeah.
First-generation homeowners, so they've never seen it, and they've always thought of everybody else. So it kind of looks like, they all can buy, but we've never been able to buy, and now they're changing that, and then it lifts.
It does lift them up, and they get more involved in the community because they feel a sense of pride now that they have home ownership. And I can see how they would get more involved in the community, knowing that they have their kids now are going to schools.
Yep.
They're
involved in the neighborhood watch stuff.
They're rooted in that area. I can see how it definitely.
And so you'd asked about foreclosures as well.
Yeah,
I would just say
the
that
foreclosure rate. I know we're touching on that.
Over the years, we've seen 9 instances where folks that we've helped buy homes lose their homes to foreclosure, and that's 9 too many, and 9 more than if he asked me 12 years ago, I would have thought that we had. But even though we've had 9, and we're serving households that are much below the average income of most homeowners in Minneapolis, land trust homeowners are still 50% or have been 50% less likely to fall into foreclosure than the average Minneapolis homeowner. And I think that speaks to that relationship and the fact that we have, in many cases, the homeowner's back. So if they run into problems, they're reaching out to us so that we can get ahead of the conversation with the lender or whatever the situation is, so that we can start to work out a solution, especially if they want to stay in their homes. And I think that has huge. Multiple benefits in the community level.
Yeah, that
is huge.
That's good to have that view and
support.
And exactly, if you're a first generation homeowner, and no one's ever owned in your family, and you go and take that big step, but you don't have the income necessarily, you're under 80%. This is a great program. It's clclt.org, and you can learn more about it. Actually, if you're looking for a good place to, donate, that's a great helpful place to donate if you're a donator, to donate money and also to donate time and resources and all kinds of things on that. And that's right on the website, too, if you want to do that, and you can learn about them. And, of course, if you know anybody that would benefit from the program, always go there, and they can reach out to Jeff or inquire in and have Jeff or one of his colleagues there.
Minions?
No, I don't want to say. Colleagues or people that he works with help there as well. They're very nice, very kind, and very understanding, and will take and talk to anybody. So, Jeff, other questions for you as far as how does the community land trust, how do they work with other types of housing opportunities? Are there any, we talk about buying the homes and you helping with that and owning the land. Are there any other things the community's land trust is doing?
Yeah, so in addition to the affordability investments we make in homes, most of our buyers are also qualifying for other first-time buyer down payment assistance programs. Maybe there's neighborhood programs that are investing dollars. So in addition to what we provide, and in our case, we provide on average about $50,000 in affordability investments to help somebody buy a home. But in many cases, home buyers are going out and securing additional down payment assistance that's equal to $20,000, $30,000. They satisfy the terms on that down payment assistance. That's also equity that when they go to sell is their equity. One of the things that failed to mention in an earlier segment was that any dollar that somebody's paying down on their mortgage, 100% of whatever they pay off on that mortgage is theirs. It's only subject to a resale percentage if there's an increase in value, and that's where we share in that increase in value. And again, I think it's important to note that our share of that increase doesn't go to my pockets or back to the organization. It stays with that home so that we can keep that investment and that home affordable for another generational homeowner, essentially keeping a one-time, very precious, valuable affordability investment that we make in a property there to assist multiple generations of homeowners. So somebody listening may say, wow, $50,000, that's a lot of my taxpayer money. Because the dollars we're investing are all of our money. That's a lot of money to go into one home, Jeff, and I agree with that. But let's start to think about leveraging those dollars over multiple generations of home buyers. So if we leverage that over 4 or 5 house generations or purchasers, then that investment is down to less than $10,000 per household after we break it out and leverage it.
It's reused instead
awesome.
of just going away and saying, oh, the one shot, like you talked about. That's why, so that goes back to the beginning of why you guys were started, is to prevent the investment from Minnesota Housing, for example, putting money into a project, and then boom, after 5 years, no one recoups, it's not recaptured. You have a way or vehicle or a tool now, a land trust, community land trust, to hold that money in place and reuse it for the program multiple times, which I think is a great way to do it if you're going to do that. And more questions about as far as the land trust and land banks is how do you guys, we'll get back to this when we get back because we're up against a break, but how does the community land trust interest work with lenders and realtors and
I've
things
got
like
questions
that?
on that too.
Because we're just curious how that works for our sake and for people that may want to use the program.
People that are listening. Right?
Jeff Washburn, thanks for listening. City Lakes Community Land Trust, clclt.org. You're listening to the Stockwell Roche Show with Jason Stockwell.
Josh Roche.
And we'll be back soon.
Never land. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California.
We have the best sound producer in the business.
Chris
Thank you,
is the
Chris.
best. Yep.
Every week I hear a new song that I like, that I should have heard, and I love that song. I should have heard that, but I don't know it.
You've never heard that song?
I've never heard it either. That's a great song.
I'm
Great
way out of touch, I guess.
It's like a downtown Chicago.
You're listening to the Stockwell Roche Show. I'm Jason Stockwell with Remax Results.
Josh Roche, Remax Advantage Plus.
Jeff Washburn, the director of the City Lakes Community Land Trust, is our special guest today, talking about land trust, land banks, the differences, what they are, and how they work, how they benefit the community, and what they do. We learned a ton so far about all of these things, and you can always check out the YouTube or the video, and also find more information, photos, and things like that on TalkTwinCitiesRealEstate.com, TalkTwinCitiesRealEstate.com, or go to the Stockwell Roche Show on Facebook. You can always call too. I didn't give a phone number yet, but you can always call us and we'll get back to you. And any questions, 651-400-0773, 651-400-0773. And we're happy to answer any questions and help out. And thank you out there for listening, you loyal listeners out there. We appreciate each and every one of you. So, Jeff, back to the land trust and the question Josh and I had, and we're curious about.
Yeah, I guess one of the questions I have is, as put myself in the shoes of a possible buyer looking to buy a property, is what questions should I be asking the lenders that work with you guys, and is there a certain group of lenders that do work with us? Because I know just based off the experience that me and Jason have, not a lot of lenders are open to these opportunities. What kind of questions, if I was out looking for a home to get a pre-approval, questions should I be asking my lender if they work with you guys or not?
Yep. Thanks. Great question. And maybe I'll back up one second and just saying that of any buyer that we work with, we have a 2-page simple application found on our website that we require of them. We require them to attend one of our free 1-hour orientations on the land trust, where we go deeper on what the land trust is, how it works, how it doesn't. We do require that they attend first-time home buyer education training, which there's a number of classes any given weekend. And then to get to your question, we require that they are pre-approved through a lender that does land trust loans. And so currently in the Twin Cities market, Wells Fargo, Bremer, U.S. Bank, and then a number of different mortgage brokers who broker the state of Minnesota housing mortgage bond product, all provide land trust loans. If somebody was talking to a new lender who maybe I didn't mention right there, they may have an outlet and we're always, I think, more than willing to work with, and we want to have as many lenders as possible who are able and willing to work with the land trust, community land trust to do so. So I think the important thing is to say, look, I'm thinking about buying a land trust home, community land trust property. Do you have a mortgage product that's compatible with that purchase?
Okay. And as far as interest of realtors, or not interest of realtors, but reaching out to realtors, because if I think the key to the land trust, what I'm getting from it, from listening to Jeff and talking with him on this through this whole show, is that many people that you help, Jeff, that your organization helps and does stuff with, may not be the people that raise their hand and say, I'm going to buy a home. Some of them probably think they'll never buy a home. Mm-hmm. It's not even in their thought process because they've maybe been denied to buy a home, or they see the price, or they look at their income and think, well, we'll never be able to buy a home. Prices are going up at 5 to 8 to 12 to 13% clips a year. How can we ever catch up to that? How do you guys get in? I imagine now it's word of mouth, right? After you've done it for a while, but how else do you get involved to get you out so people can say, "Hey, there is hope."
There are other outlets, right?
Hope can have a negative word now with President Obama and hope and change, but this gives hope. People have to have hope, and this gives people hope on buying a home. And how do you get out and get the word out on it?
So we are incredibly, I think, real estate industry dependent. We both realtors, lenders, and us, title companies, we're part of a much larger industry, and I think our dependence is it's directly tied to relationships with realtors, lenders, and others in the industry. So we do. It's a lot. Probably within our world, 200-300 realtors that we work with. Almost every one of the transactions that we've been able to be part of works with a realtor partner on one or both sides of the transaction. So it's really important to us to be able to do so. I remember at one point a homeowner came back to see us a while after they purchased their home, and they said, what's really funny is that I never noticed for sale signs. It was not part of their worldview because they never thought that it was an opportunity for them. And so as they drive up and down the streets, I'm sure.
Oh, just in general.
In general, it was not part of their worldview. Wow. That's because they never thought that was part of their reality. And so I think those are the types of buyers. They never thought that they could buy a home. And so for us, a lot of it is planting the seed. And to your point, it is word of mouth. We get calls, a lot more calls on Mondays, and especially over long weekends. This past weekend, over President's Day weekend, we had a lot more calls on Tuesday. Why? Because people had a chance to hang out with other family and friends, and they said, how did you buy your home?
Yep.
That story, despite my best efforts at telling how the land trust works, is always going to come better from another homeowner who said, this is how I did it. I never thought I could do it. You can do it.
Yep.
And that's going to carry a lot more weight than this guy telling the story.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is a great story. And to hear that, and to hear the people that I know, real estate, that's all I see when I drive. I probably should pay more attention to the road because I'm looking at the for sale. Who's got that one? What's going on over here? But to see people that don't even pay attention to that because it's so far out of their mind, and then to see them get into the situation and then spread that to other people and tell other people about it and give them the hope of being able to buy a home, because many of us who do own homes are very fortunate and just take for granted that it's the ability to do it. I mean, just me, when I grew up, we never owned, it was apartment living the whole time, and that's why when I was getting out of school, I said, I really do want to own a home, right? Just because I knew that it was just something I always wanted. All my friends seem to have houses, so it's kind of that scenario, and this organization helps out. So Jeff Washburne, Director, City Lakes Community Land Trust. Again, the website, clclt.org, clclt.org. You can go there to find information. Send people there if you know someone, or if you or a loved one or someone might benefit from a program like this or learn more about it. Or if you want to donate and your time or your money or energy, they have a lot of involvement in the community and are involved in many, many things. So great information there. Again, other upcoming shows, Big City Lights and Lifestyle. We'll have a developer on. Co-ops and timeshares, how to buy them and sell them properly. And then crowdfunding, what is it? Those are upcoming shows, and you can find all this on TalkTwinCitiesRealEstate.com. Anytime you can go there and look and call us as well as 651-400-0773. As far as other things with the City Lakes Community Land Trust, is there anything else, Jeff, that you think is important that people might want to know or hear about you in our closing couple of minutes here?
Sure. I just want to talk a little bit about how we are able to help folks buy homes. We have a couple different programs. One is we're developing more and more homes. We're building some new homes. We're rehabbing a lot of existing homes. And those homes are for sale. We list them on our website. And then increasingly, as we've grown as an organization, we have more homeowners who have been in their homes now for 7 or 10 years, and they're looking to resell their homes. And so there's an increasing number of land trust homes that are for sale, and a buyer, if they're interested, they could go through our buyer steps and be able to buy those homes. The other way, and I think this is the one that probably is most realtor friendly, is what we call our home buyer initiated program. We've helped about 100 homeowners buy homes through this program, where we're not selecting the home, but we're providing, depending on the household income, an investment anywhere from $25,000 to $60,000 to go out and work with the realtor to find a single family home that's going to best fit their choice. What we're doing is just bridging and boosting their purchase power to be able to buy into a neighborhood or near a park of the home of their choice. It's not saying that our homes aren't good, but every buyer knows better than I do what type of home is going to work for themselves and their families. And this is a way for them.
What's that program called?
Is that restricted in Minneapolis?
Yes, it's just in Minneapolis, but other organizations have similar programs for their communities. It's called the Home Buyer Initiated Program. And then in addition to that affordability investment, on average, we come in with $30,000 to $40,000 in deferred maintenance and rehab costs. So a lot of times homes need a new roof, they need a new boiler, and that's just an outright grant, and that's part, arguably, of the community development or rehabilitation work that we're doing as an organization. So after the homeowner buys, we work with contractors, with the homeowner, select the work that needs to be done, and then those contractors are doing that deferred maintenance and rehab work on the home, and that's just an outright grant. So we're not only are we setting up the homeowner well with a affordable mortgage, but we're also making sure that the home is in good shape.
That's awesome.
If you have questions, you're outside of Minneapolis, you can reach out to Jeff or go to the website clclt.org and find other land trusts around the metro if you're outside of the Twin Cities.
Great show today.
Yeah. Stockwell Roche Show. I'm Jason Stockwell with RE/MAX Results.
I'm Josh Roche, RE/MAX Advantage Plus.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week. And remember, love yourself and love others.